Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is the Earn Advantage podcast. It's been a while since we've been able to do this with the rising climb of COVID numbers, but luckily I was able to get Erik Goodge, recently certified financial planner since the last time we sat down together with UVest Advisory Group to talk. We had mentioned previously that we wanted to try to start doing a series, maybe monthly, to kind of keep you informed of different things that are going on, some different tips, tactics, things that you can do to better serve yourself. So Erik reached out to me today, and he hit on a pretty cool topic that affects people that are a lot like us, self-employed individuals. So, Erik, thanks for being with us today.
All right, thanks so much for having me, Aaron. Like you said, I got that CFP designation finished up. I'm very happy with that, and I have all kinds of time to do fun stuff like podcasts with my friend Aaron.
You know, I have not taken the CFP course or test or any of that stuff, but I know multiple people who have, and I hear that it is a bear.
It's terrible. Don't get me wrong, it's very valuable, but it was a very difficult, rigorous exam, but I think that's what makes it valuable, so...
Yeah. And I would say, anybody who is a self-employed individual or going into business who's offering advice on something like your financial well-being, having that certification is probably something you want to look for if you're asking people those questions, right?
Yeah, well, I certainly think so, having spent the last 1,000 hours of my life studying for and passing that exam. But I think there's a certain degree of responsibility you bring to the table when you're dealing with people's finances, especially, and you should recognize when you're competent or when you're not competent, and you need to refer out something to another professional. So that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. And, being in real estate, that's a topic of conversation that comes up with me all the time. People are just like, we're buying this house. We need to look at our whole financial picture. Can you help us with that? And I'm like, absolutely. Let me tell you about my friend Erik.
Yeah, that's a great way to make an introduction. And likewise, if I get prospects or clients asking me about buying a home, there's some limited advice I can give them, but you are usually my main source of information.
I appreciate that. So today you kind of reached out and said you wanted to talk specifically about some stuff for self-employed individuals. Any particular area or scope you want to start with?
Yeah, well, so I was thinking, there's a lot more self-employed individuals than there have been historically, especially with the rise of, I don't know what we want to call it, like the gig economy or something like that. You have a lot of 1099 contractors, a lot of people who literally, whether they may not think of themselves this way or not, but they're business owners in a real sense. When you're a 1099 contractor, you are a business owner. You're not an employee of the firm you work for. And so I was thinking, I think it would be fun to talk about things that are important to those folks who might just very well make up a large segment of your audience. So,
that's one thing that specifically in real estate is, we affiliate with a brokerage. So a lot of people say, oh, what company do you work for? And, FC Tucker's the company I work for. But the truth of the matter is actually also that I do run my own business because Tucker gives me tools, technology, training to be effective and be a good professional real estate agent. But ultimately, I'm the one who's out there pounding the pavement, making the phone calls, doing the things necessary because I am the one who's running my own business. And when new agents get into, FC Tucker or really any brokerage out there, they sometimes have a disconnect of thinking, oh, I am a business owner, and we have to kind of train them to think that way.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, depending on the company you are a contractor for, they might discourage that I'm a business owner sort of line of thinking because it kind of encourages and maybe too much independence.
Yeah.
But if you are a 1099 contractor, you are very much an employee of yourself. And the laws that govern you as an employee are different from W-2 employees.
Absolutely.
One of the big things that I thought would be interesting to talk about, I've got a list of things here that I think would be interesting, but if you come to a 1099 gig, we'll call it, whether you're a realtor or a broker of some sort, the there's this, and you don't have built up this expectation that you're a business owner. You might have this expectation that there ought to be somebody telling you what to do and when to do it. Right. But the truth of the matter is there's not as I've never been a realtor, but I would imagine there's probably not a whole lot of people lording over you, telling you what and when to do it.
The old saying for real estate, and this is something I talk about all the time, especially when I'm comparing Tucker to other brokerages that are in existence out there, is, the old adage is, congratulations, you have a real estate license. Here's your desk. Here's your phone. You're on your own. Figure it out.
Yeah.
So we offer, Fast Track, which is a training course, which is like the preeminent training course for new real estate agents, as far as I'm concerned, because it actually picks up and fills in all the blanks that the real estate exam fails, which is teaching you to actually sell real estate.
Right.
You go through a course to get licensed and do all this stuff, and then it doesn't teach you anything. So we try to fill in those gaps, teach people how to do the things they need to do, but we don't require anybody to do that. We encourage it, obviously. And, we don't say, hey, you have to be in the office 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. None of that stuff. It's just, hey, here's what's worked for other people. Adapt and use what works best for you.
I think some people have this idea of freedom that, especially if you work for, maybe you're a W-2 employee with very strict rules around what and when you do it. There's this beautiful idea that, wouldn't it be great if I could just go into the office whenever I want or do whatever I want whenever I want. But I think too much freedom is just as big of a problem as too little freedom.
Too much freedom is almost paralyzing to some people.
Absolutely. If you can do literally anything, what would you do?
Where do I start? Yeah, what do I do?
Yeah, I need to start making money, but where do I start?
When I first started selling real estate, as opposed to in my beginning of my real estate career, while I was still in school and I was doing administrative work and everything, I remember I would have all kinds of days of free time where I'd be sitting at home, Wednesday afternoons at 2:00, and I'm like, I don't have anything to do. I guess I'll just sit here and watch TV. That's such a foreign thought now, but there's a lot of people who are in that boat. And it took finding out how to discipline myself to control my calendar to finally get to a place where I was focusing my time on bringing in new leads and developing new business relationships and all this stuff, so that I actually then had a full schedule of things to do and things to time block and activities to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a similar experience when I started UVest Advisory. I had been an advisor for a number of years, but I was also a college student, and that was the main that was the main dictator of my time. When I first started. But the first year at UVest Advisory, when I was out on my own, I wasn't a college student. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I should be doing on a day in, day out basis. So
who do I call? Who do I see? Where do I
go? So I went fishing instead. That's what I spent the first 6 months.
Fly fishing, if I remember correctly.
Fly fishing specifically, yeah. But that's a horrendous waste of time. And I'm a big believer of, I don't know who came up with this, but what gets tracked, what gets measured, gets improved.
Yes.
That's one of my big philosophies. If you are tracking or measuring something, those things tend to get improved. And so I think I've been doing this for about a year and a half now. So July or August 2019, I started tracking my time with actually on my phone with a app. It's called Toggl. It's the app that I use.
Okay, nice.
There's a bunch of time tracking apps out there. But I just started tracking my time with no goal in mind, just tracking my time just to see, everybody thinks they work an 8-hour day, but is that really true? So, seriously. So
I was there for 8 hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I started tracking my time, and I broke my time into chunks. First, it kind of took a little bit of experimentation to figure out what kind of categories I should chunk my time into. Now, as it stands, I have 4 categories that I break my time into: operations, which are client-facing work, research, that sort of stuff; break time, anytime I'm not doing anything financially planning related or investment management related;
yep.
Marketing, stuff like this. Like right now, I'm in a marketing block. I'm in doing a podcast; and administration, bookkeeping, that sort of thing, compliance. What I found really shocked and interested the crap out of me. I found that no matter what I do, no matter how disciplined I am, no matter how strong my intentions are, it is very, very rare for me to go an entire workday without spending at least 25% of my time on break, not doing work. And if 25% is a really good number for me, that usually it's about a third of my day is spent. And I'm not saying I'm lazy or undisciplined, because I really don't think that's true. I think that I just had no idea. Most people don't. They don't track it. They don't know.
That's the truth. I mean, I listen to a bunch of podcasts and I look at a bunch of different stuff on like productivity and things like that. And, if you actually sat and tracked employees about how much time do they spend pulling out their cell phone and sending text messages, how much time are they spending surfing Facebook or watching YouTube videos or sending emails that have nothing to do with what they're supposed to be doing, I think that 25% of your day as a break is probably on the low end of the spectrum.
I definitely think so. I certainly hope so, because that's where I'm at on the spectrum. But here's how I do it. Anytime I spend more than 1 minute not literally engaged, nose down in work, whether that's marketing, operations, or administrative work, that is break time. Even if it's, I got to go get a haircut, I got to go do something, somewhere. If it's not directly related to my work, then it's break or errand category.
Right.
That always ends up being somewhere between a quarter and a third of my day. So what that tells me is I don't have as much time as I think I do, which is good to know. I mean, if I know that no matter how motivated I am, if I go in with the intention of putting an 8-hour workday in, I'm really only going to get 6 hours of good focused work in.
At best, yeah.
That's good to know.
Right.
Because if I go into with the intention of putting 8 hours of work in, I think I'm going to get 8 hours of productivity in. It ain't going to happen, and I'm going to be, playing catch up.
And trying to do any kind of projection or anything else without that knowledge, I think that's where a lot of people fail. And, that saying of, that which is measured can be improved is definitely something I hold true. In real estate, there's so many different tools that are out there for different kinds of things that people don't tend to think of when they're getting started. I use a contact relationship manager system. It's called Referral Maker. And I go in and I track every time I make a phone call to somebody, anytime I write a thank you note to somebody, if I drop by and see somebody, if I'm having lunch with a person, I keep notes of all that stuff so that I can actually pay attention and say, okay, so how many times did I actually have to have a conversation or make a point of contact to get a referral from somebody? And then how many referrals do I have to generate to actually get a closing?
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, so it's super easy. Now I know and can keep track of, and the software calculates it all out for me. And I know that for every 26 conversations, I'm going to get a closing. So if I say, okay, so for 26 conversations, I'm going to get a closing. How many closings do I need to get to hit my goals? It's just numbers at that point. Then it's
Absolutely.
like, okay, it's a lot easier to do this as opposed to sitting down on January 1st, the beginning of the year, every year going, I'm back at $0 for production for the year.
Right. What do I do?
Where do I go from here?
Yeah. I mean, just think about how valuable that information is, because say you're trying out a new marketing message, or you're trying out a new pitch, or whatever it is. You don't know how effective it's going to be, but you do know historically that it takes 26 conversations to land a closing. All of a sudden, you see that number creeping up to 30, 40 conversations for a closing. Well, something's got to be wrong with your messaging. I messed something up. Something's going wrong. That information, anytime you can track something, and especially if you can do it in an easy way with like a CRM,
right?
I myself use one as well. That is hugely valuable. So if you are at 1099, I would say, this is kind of, one of the first major points of this discussion. If you're self-employed, 1099 contractor, whether you're a broker of some sort, realtor, tracking your time and tracking your contacts with a CRM software is a must. You just have to do it if you're going to be serious about it.
Absolutely, 100%. What's another kind of point that you wanted to make? Because, we can talk about organization and tracking all day long.
Yeah.
I teach classes on this. I'm actually starting one on Monday, January 25th. We're doing a class specifically on this for real estate agents that I get to lead. So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I literally all day. So I'll let you guide the conversation so I don't just take over.
I was thinking this is a good segue into how you organize your business. So a part of, if you look at big corporations, really big, serious, successful companies, you got like your Apples, your Googles, Oracle, Microsoft, whoever.
You could call them successful.
Whatever they are. They're big, they're large, they've made a name for themselves. They're all organized. Any company is organized into departments, and you have, managers that manage those departments and report to CEOs, right? The C-suite. If you are a solopreneur, as we'll call it,
you are the C-suite.
You are the C-suite. You are the chief compliance officer. You are the chief financial officer and the chief executive officer.
And the bookkeeper and the janitor.
Everything. But you need to have some sort of organization, because if you just have this idea that I'm just in charge of everything, and it's just, here's this collection of duties that I'm sort of in charge of, that's fine, but that's not organized. There's no efficient way to think about that. So what I do personally, and I found to be helpful, and the reason I advocate for it, is breaking up my business into 3 distinct functions. And it doesn't have to be 3 distinct functions. 3 worked out for me because that's just the simplest that I could break down my business into. I broke it into, and I mentioned this when I was talking about time tracking, because this kind of dovetails really neatly with my time tracking.
Right.
I got administrative functions, I've got marketing functions, and I've got operational functions. Those are the 3 departments of my business. I read a book. I read this book, I think, a year or so ago. It's called, and maybe you're familiar with it. It's called Traction by Gino Wickman.
I've got it in my library, in my office. I haven't got to that one yet.
It's a great read. But the thing about that book, it is, if you are in business for yourself, or even maybe a larger business, that book is in my opinion, is a must read. One of the ways that book is organized, it's written for larger companies, right, with 3 or more employees, really. But I was reading this book, and I was like, man, these points, these lessons in this book are so valuable. Just in my opinion, they're so valuable. How can I apply them to a one-person shop like myself? And one of the big sticking points was like, there's no separate department of UVest Advisory. It's Erik Goodge. That's right. What it is, So, but that doesn't mean I can't, segment out a chunk of UVest that's dedicated to marketing. So there's a selection of duties that are dedicated to marketing. There's an amount of time that I'm targeting for marketing. Has its own budget.
Yep.
It has all this stuff that's separate, that's not mixed in with operations. I have separate KPIs. I have separate goals for marketing. KPIs
are key performance indicators.
Yes, thank you. Key performance indicators. So I got different goals for marketing. These are marketing specific things. And then I've got, operational goals and KPIs. And I've got administrative goals. And I keep these things segmented out to help my thinking, because when you're sitting down and you're sitting down at your desk for the workday, one of the things I struggled with early on was just spending too much time at the beginning of the day figuring out what I was going to do.
Right.
And that is a waste of time. You cannot start every day trying to figure out what you're going to do. You need to know what you're going to do, and you need to hit the ground running. And in order to do that, you need to have goals for these various aspects of your business. And the simplest, most efficient way for me to do that was to break apart my business instead of having this monstrous beast of a burden, UVest Advisory, with all these various compliance tasks and operational tasks. And I got clients who need stuff done. I've got, marketing things laying over here that haven't been done for weeks. I needed to separate all that stuff out so I could prioritize it.
It's amazing the way that you prioritize that into those 3 separate categories, because I'm thinking back to a lot of the training that I've done, and with Buffini Company, which is the coaching company that we affiliated with at FC Tucker. The very first thing that I remember doing was a course called Peak Producers. And in Peak Producers, like, the first thing they talk about is it's a 3-legged stool of the things that you have to do as a real estate agent in your business. And it's the CEO, the COO, and the CFO. And obviously the CFO is the chief financial officer. You got to keep track of the money, period. End of story. If you don't keep track of what you're earning and what you're spending and everything else, it doesn't matter.
If it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get improved.
It doesn't get improved. So, hey, I haven't kept track of a single thing. Oh, I made X amount of dollars, but I spent X plus 5. I'm losing out. I'm losing money. I'm not doing the right things. COO is the chief operating officer. That's the time that I'm spending following up with clients on the transactions that we have going, keeping sellers informed of the listing or the showings that they have coming up, going through contracts and all that stuff when we're under contract, making things happen. That is probably what takes the most amount of time for a lot of people because it's making sure deals are getting closed. And then you got the CEO who's in charge of sales and marketing, which is far and away more important than anything else that you do as a self-employed individual, because the saying is in real estate, you can't be a secret agent, because if nobody knows that you're selling real estate,
I'm a secret real estate agent.
They're not going to call you to do anything.
Right.
So just to hear somebody else who hasn't gone through the same kind of training specifically, having that breakdown, that's literally the same kind of breakdown, I think is interesting to hear, because it can be applied in any business.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're a realtor or investment advisor or broker of some sort, yeah, absolutely. Sort of a similar theme or lesson, I guess. I really like blues rock.
Yeah.
Like what I'm thinking of is like White Stripes from the
Very
mid
nice.
2000s.
Yeah.
And I watched this interview from Jack White a number of years ago, and he talked about his creative process. And he used to be early on, back in the 90s, he was a furniture reupholster. So he would repair furniture. That's what he did in Detroit.
Didn't know that.
And he was repairing a couch one day, and what he would do is he would take these, these like leather pens. Basically, whenever you're upholstering something, you got to have pens to hold it into the wood, right? And you would just need 3 pins along the back of the couch to hold it, because that was the minimum number of pins that you needed, and it looked fine, and there's no reason in making it more confusing or more complicated than it needed to be, just 3 pins. And he looked at that and he thought, there's something beautiful about the simplicity of this, because it is the fewest, simplest way you can do this. And he took that attitude to his music with the White Stripes. And the White Stripes is probably the simplest, most successful band.
Guitarist and a drummer.
A guitarist and a drummer, and there's no bass, there's no complicated, key, other stuff going on, synthesized music or anything like that. It's just, I started to say keyboard there, but I think he does use a keyboard occasionally. But it's just him, right? So it's just 2 people. And they were enormously successful. If you look at their the sheet music of a lot of White Stripes' biggest hits, it's super simple chords. It's just a very simple rhythm, but it's just that simplicity that people could just easily grab. And when you if you can apply that to business, I think it's really powerful, because if you have, going back to that thought about freedom, if you have too much freedom, it's kind of like a bad thing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you can constrain yourself, if you box yourself in, there's only so many things you can do. But that has enormous potential, because you're not going to be spending all day just thinking about these things that you could do. It's like, I have all the ideas, but no time to pursue any of them.
Right.
Which way do I go? So if you can constrain that down in your business, that's enormously powerful.
Yeah, that follows very closely with one of my favorite sayings I've ever heard. It's from Joe Nego, who's with Buffini Company. He's like, most agents aim for nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy. Because there's so much stuff that's out there. There's so many distractions and bright, shiny objects that people are just like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to go for a little bit of this. I'm going to take a little bit of that. I'm going to do this. And they have no real target of those simplified things they need to be focusing on. And ultimately, they're just unsuccessful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you need to simplify. We all come up with great ideas all the time. I believe it. I come up with awesome ideas, and I'm like, Erik, you know what? That was a fantastic idea, and I'm sure you do too, Aaron, and I'm sure the listeners do. But you only have so much time. Yeah. I have an unlimited ability to come up with fantastic, awesome, and terrible ideas, but I only have 24 hours in a day, and I need to hit the ground running whenever I get to work.
To paraphrase my man Gary V, and I'll keep it clean because I try to keep the language a little bit better than the Jersey boy he is, ideas are crap. Execution is the game.
Exactly right. I see awesome ideas in the investment world all the time. And in fact, I struggle because I see something, I'm like, I'd really love to do this as my business, but this takes it away from my core focus. This takes me away from my niche, which I think is an excellent topic to kind of segue into. So I have to make difficult decisions about not pursuing that, because it gets me off target.
Right.
So
So speaking of target, niche.
Targets. Yes.
Targets are definitely something that people should identify and try to aim for when they're building their business.
The riches are in the niches, as they say.
That's right. So I know that you have a specific niche of the people that you kind of focus on with UVest. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So professional millennials, millennial business owners is my niche. And I'm not married to it. I'm always trying to improve it, make it either more refined or, you don't want it to be too refined. You don't want a niche of, exactly one.
Let's say somebody who's 50 years old who wants to come and talk to you. You're not going to turn them away, are you?
Okay. Here's the thing about having a niche. I think that a lot of the reason that business owners are afraid to do the niche thing is because they're afraid that they're not casting their net wide enough, or they're going to be turning away all this business. And when you're first starting out, I know you probably went through this, and I'm just now emerging from this phase. But if you could fog a mirror, I will gladly take you on as a client because I need the money, and that's what business is about at that point.
Top line revenue generates everything.
Exactly.
You can't do any of the other things necessary without money coming in.
But here's the thing. With a niche, you're not saying I refuse to take anybody who doesn't exactly fall into my niche. That's not what it's about. Like
right.
if a very wealthy, millionaire 50-year-old came to me and clearly they're not a millennial, they're not, and maybe they're not even a professional, maybe they're just a very wealthy old person or something. I'm not going to say
50 is not old, by the way.
No, not 50, maybe 80.
We got real estate agents listening to this. That's the average age of realtors right now.
So I apologize. I take it back. It's not old. It's just wiser or something.
There you go. Seasoned.
Yeah, seasoned. I'm not going to tell that person no. That would be silly. And you're not going to quit getting inquiries from those people just because you've decided that you have a niche. I still get inquiries. I've been focusing on millennials now exclusively for the past 2 years.
Right.
And I still get inquiries from people across the board. And guess what? I still have clients across the board. But the point of having a niche is that you can really focus on the issues and the services that matter to them. I'll give you, here's a great example of the power of a niche. Okay, tape. Before we came into this podcast, I just Googled tape. How much is tape? Any kind of tape. General medical tape is what I Googled. It's like $3 or $4 and you can get like 17 rolls of it. I don't know. It's just, you can get a ton of tape for really cheap. But if you want sleep tape, for those of you who aren't familiar with what sleep tape is tape that you use to put on your lips at night so you don't breathe through your mouth and snore and that sort of thing at night.
Oh, great. So now my wife's going to want me to buy this.
This is a particular kind of tape. Guess how much that tape costs?
$10 a roll.
It's $20 a roll.
Oh my gosh.
So they're charging 6 times, and tape is tape. Look, I mean, the sleep tape is just tape. It really is. They're charging you 6 times what the other tape guys are charging. Why? Because they have a niche. They are the tape for people who want to tape their mouths when they sleep. That's what they are. That's what they do. So think about that in the context of your business. I don't, I'm not in the real estate industry, so I don't know how this would apply. But if you were the realtor for some particular type of niche, you were that guy, you might be able to command a premium. Now, there's other reasons why you might not be able to do that. But in my industry, I hold myself out as the financial planner for professional millennials who want to be successful. I can focus on those millennials and charge a premium for that because I know I am them. I know what their issues are important to them. I know what services they need. I focus my business exclusively on that, just like the sleep tape makers. They know just what amount of tape you need. They know exactly how much stickiness or whatever should go on the lips and what shouldn't, so
does it work on facial hair?
I really don't know, but maybe they probably, if they're charging $20 a roll, they should. It should. So that's the point, though. If you are something for somebody exactly for that crowd, you can charge a premium.
Absolutely.
Which is important as a business owner. But not only that, you offer a better service.
100%.
You justify that premium. You get happier clients. You are happier because you're more efficient. You're making a better living.
Right.
Offering a better service. So you got happier clients, happier business owners. why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. In real estate, a lot of people call it building an avatar. Like, who is it that I want to work with? Who are the people that are the clients that I want the most
Like a
of?
buyer persona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thing is always like, I don't have it's an age group or it's a specific price range or anything like that. I do this kind of stuff. I sit down and have podcasts, or I go out and I review restaurants, or I go and meet other business owners and have conversations, do things. Because I want people who are like me in the fact that they want to actually know and understand the process and actually have somebody who's going to provide that extra level of service. I tell everybody all the time, I'm not here to sell you a house.
I have a confession to make because you just said something that it's perfect. I was actually, avatars. The word I use for that, the term I use for that is buyer persona. And yesterday I finished up my 2021 marketing plan, and I came up with 5 buyer personas that I like to work with. And the way I create buyer personas is by going through my client list, finding people that I really like working with,
right,
and then creating a age, sex, what's their family like, what are their interests, what's their income, what's their job, that sort of thing. I used you as one of my buyer personas. I'm not lying.
I like this.
I even had to go to your Facebook page to find out what your exact age was. Or I think I actually went to my CRM, because I was like, see, 33, 34, I can't remember.
Just had a birthday, 34.
But interests is one of the interests, is one of the things I have for buyer persona. I want to know what they're interested in. And with you, it was kind of funny because I was like, oh, gosh, the only thing I ever see about Aaron Luttrull on social media is either something business related or something food related.
Yeah.
So what interests? I have food and business.
Yeah.
And you said,
accurate. So accurate.
But what's hilarious is you brought that up while you were talking about yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, okay. So I'll stop with my little interruption there.
I mean, that it makes such perfect sense in what we're talking about. And that's part of why I do what I do, because I want the people, and it's not just food specifically, like, oh, I just want to eat stuff all the time, but it's like trying new things, new types of food, going to places that are local restaurants that maybe have, a different kind of style, like Pangea, global comfort food. I love that.
Right.
Or right now I'm going around with a buddy who came up with the idea that we should try all the different wing places in Evansville. And I'm like, that's a great idea. We're kind of comparing all these different facets of wings. And I've had people talk to me and say, Aaron, I don't get what this has to do with real estate. And I always answer with 2 things. I said, my first answer is, it doesn't at all. And they're like, well, then why do you do it? That's the second part. We're now having a conversation.
Right.
And whether or not we're having a conversation that starts with real estate, ultimately the question always gets asked, so what do you do? Why do you do these videos? Oh, well, I'm a real estate professional, and I want to make sure that the people that I'm working with know all of the things that are available to them in their community food-wise, and have them understand the different options that are out there. So it doesn't matter specifically for me that I'm just focusing on an age group or a price range or any of that stuff.
No.
I want people who know who I am, know my personality, and see that kind of interest and are attracted to kind of the energy I put off in those different things.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad you said that, because when people ask me about my niche, or when I describe my niche, I usually describe it as professional business owner millennials. That gives you a general idea of, what does that mean? Professional is, it gives you an idea of sort of maybe what industry they're in. It also gives you an idea of their educational background.
Right.
Millennial, it gives you an idea of their age, but it doesn't stop there. I also like to work with people who are civic minded. So people who like to be involved in the community. As an example, I'm a Rotarian. I'm a member of the Rotary. I like people who like to be involved in the community. I like to work with those people. It's not that if you're not involved in those things, I'm not going to work with you. It's just that I can build rapport more quickly and more easily with people who are like me.
Right.
That's just true for me, and that's probably true for a lot of people.
I mean, the people who you do business with are the people that want to do business with you, know, like, and trust you.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't, the no can even be on an acquaintance level. But if they like and trust you based off of the fact that you're showing expertise in your field and you're showing the personality that they are like as well, it makes everything so much easier.
You mentioned the 50-year-old earlier, right? One of the reasons I like to work with millennials, number one, I am a millennial, but number two, I've worked with people as old as their middle 80s.
Nice.
And I've had a lot of prospects, in that age range, or a lot older than me. they are so much harder to build rapport with. And it's understandable, right? Because I'm a 32-year-old.
Yeah.
What do I know about investing, right? They've
Right.
been investing longer than I've been alive. And, in their minds, what do I know about investing? I don't want to have that conversation with you. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm an investment advisor. Look, if you don't trust me, then there's plenty of other
people.
investment advisors out there. I'm not your guy. But it's important that I recognize that.
Right.
I'm not going to waste my time with people who I need to, sell myself over and over again. No, that's not going to happen. I have this specific crowd of people that I can very quickly and efficiently build rapport with, and that's who I like to work with.
Yeah, I always used to worry so much when I was younger about the fact that my hair started thinning and falling out and everything else. But I'll be real honest, in a profession like real estate where you're handling someone's largest financial investment in their lives a lot of times, it's okay looking a little bit older because I don't get those questions about my competence anymore because they don't see me as this young guy who doesn't know what he's doing. So
that's a good point.
That was something that was always okay with me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, should like do like a dye my hair gray or something. Yeah, no.
Grow the beard thicker. That was another thing that people tell me makes me look older.
Mine's all patchy, and I'm just gonna leave it short. Yeah, no. So I think niching is really important. If you're starting out, I get it. You don't have to have a firm marriage to whatever niche you come up with. And by the way, you can change niches all the time. It's just that it gives you a focus in your business.
Having that place that you can focus on also allows you to then identify things from other groups. I feel that you're like, oh, I can adapt that into what I'm doing. Because I have this focus, it just gives me a place to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can and giving me some structure. But it doesn't mean that you can't stray from that.
No, yeah, no, absolutely not. It gives you focus. That's the perfect word. You said it gives you focus. It keeps you on message. We talked about earlier about breaking your business into, in an organization and making your business an actual organization. If you have a niche, marketing becomes a lot easier because I know how to stay on message. I know what the messaging ought to be. I can build a client avatar or persona. Operations becomes easier because, if my niche is professional millennials, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of professional millennials have the exact same problems or very similar problems.
Right.
And if I've worked with that, if I've solved those problems or helped dozens of people solve that same problem, then I'm just going to get that much better at it, leading me to be able to charge a premium, be more effective, have happier client outcomes, and be more successful business owner.
Right.
Which I think is a great way to segue into a next point I wanted to talk to, which is knowing when it's time to let somebody else do a task. So outsourcing these tasks.
This was the single hardest thing for me. I very much have systems in place for myself and have for a long time that I'm like, this is how I do it. Nobody can do it like I do it. I don't want to hand this off.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of business owners struggle with that. I struggle with it too, but from a different angle. I'm like, I don't want to spend money on it. I don't want to spend.
There's that too.
Yeah.
Trust me. My mom always tells me that I'm so tight that I squeak.
Yeah. Good job, Mom. I like that. For me though, it's like, I don't want to spend money. I don't want to go pay a marketing person to go do my marketing. I want to do my marketing. Right. I don't want to pay a web developer to do my website. I want to do my website. But here's the thing. Whether you're paying a nickel or not, it's costing you time. And when you're a business owner, that time is not free.
It's your number one asset.
Exactly. It's your most limited resource, and you need to make the most use that you can, the most efficient use that you can of it. So when you're first getting started, I think there's not a lot you can afford to outsource, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. And here's why. When I was getting started as a financial planner and investment advisor, there were a lot of tasks that I had zero expertise in, but I also had zero revenue, so I had to just do it and figure it out. That doing those tasks, figuring that stuff out, helps you wrap your head around those industries. So now that I'm a somewhat more successful investment advisor, I have revenue. Okay, we'll say that. I have revenue. I can hire people to do things like keep my website up to date, do these things that I'm not an expert in. But I now know what a good service in that industry looks like. I know what a good web developer should be doing for me. I know what good marketing looks like because I've had to sit down and figure out. I've had to make all the mistakes myself. I've had to come up with terrible ads and terrible infographics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I think you made a real key point there that may get glossed over by a lot of people. And it's, what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Outsourcing isn't just abdicating.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying, hey, this is the message. This is what I want. This is how it needs to be done. But I don't need to do the physical task of making that happen.
Right.
And that's the stuff that you can kind of start identifying. Like, especially in real estate, I have a licensed administrative assistant because there's a lot of stuff that I do, a lot of conversations I have on the negotiating side and all this stuff. But when it comes down to like just filling out the forms, that's a rather simple process, and we get digital signatures and do everything. So there's times that I can go through and have the entire conversation, figure out exactly what needs to be done and exactly how to fill out a purchase agreement or listing contract or anything else, and then call my assistant and have them do the physical typing and then sending and emailing, because that's not the important part. The physical typing on the keyboard of the information and clicking the button to send it, that's the stuff I outsource. But I'm not giving it up. I'm still the knowledge piece of that, which I think is very, very important in identifying how do I outsource things. It's not just getting rid of it. It's, okay, with my expertise, where can I bring somebody else in to fill the small gaps that don't produce as well as the other things I'm doing?
You're absolutely right. If you're a new realtor or new broker or whatever, and there's going to be plenty of marketing firms or individuals who will gladly take your money and convince you
for nothing.
Whatever. But when they ask you, okay, well, what do you want? What should this look like? If you don't know, then that's just a waste of money.
Right.
Now you're essentially doing the work twice. You're sitting down to figure out what a good message is, what good marketing is, what a good website looks like, and then you're conveying it to this person to do it. That should have already been done. You should know what your business is about, what your message is,
right.
what looks good, what service you need. You need to know what you need before you hire somebody to do it.
100%.
And for me, the best way to do that was to just do it and screw it up a bunch of times until I had the revenue to pay somebody else to do it. But now, once you get to that next level, it is very important that you outsource that, because you need to be making the most efficient use of your time. Going back to point number 1, time management.
Right.
And you can't be focusing on tasks that aren't direct revenue drivers.
100%. And the other thing is, outsourcing other aspects of your business. I have you as my financial advisor, because I have a bachelor's in finance. I could sit and spend a portion of my time of my day to try to research the best ways to invest my money and do all these different things. But that's not a good use of my time.
Nobody's going to pay you for it.
Nobody's going to pay me for that. And so by sitting and doing that, as opposed to trusting another person who specializes in this information and knowing this stuff, I look at that still as an outsourcing of a part of what I do, as well as Frank Komar, my CPA. I outsource that. I have the ability to file my own tax returns and do all this stuff. It's not going to be right. And Frank, if he listens to this, is probably going to scream at me like, no, you can't. You're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
But that's another aspect of the outsourcing that I think people fail to really realize, that you have to have this team of people around you to be the best success that you can possibly be.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're a realtor. You get paid to buy and sell houses. That's what you get paid to do. You do not get paid to make investments or to do marketing or to do these other ancillary tasks that everybody has to do, but it's not a revenue driver in your business. Right. So you need to have somebody else take that responsibility. Your time is not free. There's no free lunch, as they like to say, right? Your time, if you don't value your time, nobody else will. So you need to recognize what your strengths are. If you're really good at marketing or whatever it is, or programming, and you can do your website, you should by all means go ahead and do that if you're really good and quick at it. But if that's not your profession, then you need to get rid of it and get it off your plate and let somebody else do it. That's the reason why somebody does my website. That's the reason why I'm sure you have an administrative assistant.
Absolutely.
That's why, those positions exist to begin with. You need to be focused on your business. You need to free up some of that brain power, and outsourcing will let you do that.
The best way you can outsource, and I think this gets into the final point that we wanted to discuss today that I think is absolutely the top tier, most important thing that is overlooked a lot of times, is having a strong network of individuals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the most important part of that about that network is that it's going to build the core of your business. Mm-hmm. When I first started my business, I had nothing. I had no clients. I had friends and family, but I didn't have a network of other business professionals to refer to me or to refer out to. I didn't have any of that. So I joined a group, right? That's what a lot of people do. They join networking groups, and I did. And in fact, we're in the same networking group there. Evansville Area Referral Network.
We'll tag them in this one.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Earn groupers.
But I joined that group, and I think it's been 3 or 4 years now since I joined the group. 2017 is when I joined, I think. Yeah. That group, there's been a lot of people who have come and gone from that group, but the main core of my business has come from that group. Mm-hmm. And that has been huge for me because I can do all sorts of things. Now that I have a main core, a business core, I can do all sorts of things like try out new services. If I've gone through a number of different iterations of various financial planning offerings and services. Right. And the first group that I always try it out on is people that I already know, like, and trust. And that's the networking group that I'm a member of.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people still... They hear networking group and I don't have time to go do that and I don't want to do this. And I was one of those people before I got into one. But then I go back to other people and I say, your network isn't just necessarily business professionals or business owners that you get with to talk about different stuff. Like, look at the people that you have done business with. The hard thing for real estate agents when they get in, when I'm telling them how to like kind of build their database, is like, well, I don't know anybody who's looking to buy or sell. Well, first off, you don't know that you don't know anybody who's looking to buy or sell until you actually have that conversation. And second off, it doesn't matter if they're looking to buy or sell. You just need people who know that you're in real estate, who know your character, your competence, and everything else. So you just need to go talk to anybody you know. Mm-hmm. And whenever people start that unlock, friends and family is always one of the first ones. But I tell people getting into real estate, don't be surprised when your friends and family want to use somebody else. Because if you're a brand new agent, they don't necessarily want to trust you with their largest financial investment at times. But, there's other people who are out there that might. You can talk to the people at the grocery store that you see on a daily basis. I have a woman who I have known just through going to Subway for so many times. She made sandwiches. We got to know each other. We had conversations. She asked me, hey, what do you do? And I was like, I'm in real estate. I have sold her daughter a house, sold her daughter's house. I sold a house for her sister. She's told me if she ever decides that she wants to sell, she's going to be calling me. That's part of your network.
Right.
And identifying that anybody can be part of your network, I think, is one of those things that is often overlooked by a lot of different individuals.
Yeah, it's not as if I'm only interested in talking to people who are trying to roll over their 401k, or they have a lump sum of money they're trying to invest, or they want to open a Roth IRA. That's not what it's about. I talk to CPAs and other realtors and insurance agents, all these other people about their business and about things that are not even related to investments. Mm-hmm. Why? Because when they have a referral, when they have a need or a question, who do they think to? They think, oh, that investment advisor that I had lunch with last week.
I always used to joke and say, I either know the answer or know someone who does. This is what I tell people all the time. And somebody would be like, hey, do you know somebody who does X, Y, Z? And I'm like, I got a guy for that.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I got a guy for that.
Right.
Oh, I got a gal for that. And I was like, you know what? I should just have IGotAGuy.com because really I've prided myself on having such a strong network of individuals.
That sounds like a different kind of website.
We'll rework that title, I guess. But I've built such a strong network of individuals around me that even if I don't have somebody specific who's a service provider of some kind of weird thing, like somebody asked me about, hey, do you have anybody who can identify what type of tree this is? Mm-hmm. I was like, I have no clue, but I know I can go to someone and find out if there's anybody out there.
It always is interesting to me, too, is sometimes people feel like, or at least I did when I first started networking. I absolutely hate personal face-to-face interaction. It's uncomfortable for me sometimes, and I can't always think of what to say quick enough. You know what I mean? It comes off as awkward. But one thing I would try to convince myself is that if I didn't get an immediate lead or of some sort, it was wasted time. But it's so funny to me how I'll have met somebody just through random, sheer, weird networking event, and then years later, they reach out and they say, "Hey, this random thing happened. I thought of you. Can you help?" And it turns out to be really good business. That happens so much more than you would think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is one of the things that, building the network, not only is it good for you to have that opportunity to meet other people and get a larger base, but it's also marketing and skill development and things that help you just do better when you're focusing back on your niche. Because when you're building your network, you're telling everybody, hey, this is my niche. Mm-hmm. It's also, hey, I'm satisfying that marketing time. Mm-hmm. You're blocking out the time to keep yourself organized enough to make sure that it's happening. So everything kind of culminates together.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I mean, we're kind of tying this whole conversation in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else specifically that you think we need to hit on for anybody who is even if you're a professional millennial or really any self-employed individual, some different stuff that we could chat about?
I think this has been, I think we could have multiple podcast shows about this, but I think this would be a good time to review what we have talked about. We've talked about time management.
Right.
We've talked about having an actual organization, organizing your business.
100%.
We've talked about niching. We've talked about outsourcing tasks that you're not an expert in. And we talked about building a good network. Those are 5 things that I think any person who is either a gig worker, who is a realtor, or any other 1099 employee needs to do and are absolutely crucial if they're going to be successful. Do not underestimate yourself. Do not think that you're not big enough or serious enough to be taken as an actual business, because if you don't treat your business that seriously, it will never be taken that seriously by anybody.
Yeah. And if you start off when you're first getting into business for yourself doing these things, you will be astonished at how quickly your business takes off and it goes to what most people would say, the next level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I guess there's one last point I'd like to make. This podcast is full with lessons and tips for business owners, right? And there are volumes and volumes of books on this topic and blogs and podcasts, and you can get a ton of information. But I think one of the most important things you can do is if you don't know what to do, just do something. Doing something is better than not doing anything at all. If you just do something, at least something will happen and you will be able to learn from it. So even if that's a mistake, even if that something is a mistake, and I've made plenty of them, I wouldn't have known that if I'd never made that mistake.
Right.
And that's just as valuable as having done the right thing the first time.
Yeah. To go back one more time, I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. I got plenty of people who give me a hard time about this, but he always says, just do it. Mm-hmm. You don't know what the alternative is going to be regardless. Mm-hmm. So why sit and worry about what might be when you're not realizing what you're missing out on?
I think that's a very valuable piece of information. I never listened to Gary Vee, but it seems like it's a universal lesson to me, and I think it's a great point to end on. But thank you so much for having me.
Erik, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Great topic. As you said, there is plenty of content here that we could talk about for days and days on end. So we'll definitely get together and do another podcast in the future.
Till next time.
Have a good one.
All right.
Hey, this is Aaron Luttrull. Thank you so much for checking out the Aaron Advantage podcast. If you would like to be a guest, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. We're always looking for other people to interview.